The warning. The gleaming spires of New Geneva pierced the cloud cover, reaching towards the stars that humanity now called its second home. Within the central tower, the United Earth Council chamber buzzed with anticipation. Counselors from every corner of Earth's expanding territory filed in, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Ambassador Sarah Chen straightened her formal uniform, her eyes fixed on the empty podium at the center of the circular room. The emergency session had been called with little warning, and rumors flew about its purpose. As the last of the counselors took their seats, a hush fell over the assembly. High Counselor Rodrigo Vega stepped forward, his weathered face grave. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber, "we have an unexpected guest. I ask that you listen with open minds and careful consideration." A murmur rippled through the crowd as a figure emerged from the shadows. 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales and 4 arms, the alien cut an imposing figure. Ambassador Chen leaned forward, recognizing the species immediately. A Zaxloran, one of the oldest and most respected races in the known galaxy. "I present to you," Vega continued, "Ambassador Zaxlor of the Galactic Conclave." The alien inclined his head slightly, all 4 of his eyes blinking in sequence. When he spoke, his voice was a melodious rumble that seemed to resonate in Chen's chest. "Greetings, children of Earth," Zaxlor began. "I come before you not as a representative of the Conclave, but as a friend and a harbinger of grave tidings." The chamber fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the assembly like a shroud. For millennia, the Conclave has maintained a delicate balance among the spacefaring races, Zaxlor continued. "We have weathered wars, natural disasters, and the rise and fall of empires. But now we face a threat unlike any other." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "The Confederacy of Worlds, a coalition of younger, more aggressive species, has set its sights on expansion. And their next target is humanity." Gasps and exclamations erupted from the counselors. Ambassador Chen felt her heart race, but she forced herself to remain calm, analyzing every word. Zaxlor raised 2 of his hands, calling for silence. "I know this news is shocking, but please, hear me out. The Confederacy believes that humanity, being relatively new to the galactic stage, will be an easy conquest. They see your colonies, your ships, your technology, and they hunger for it." High Counselor Vega stepped forward, his face a mask of controlled anger. "Ambassador Zaxlor, while we appreciate your warning, surely you understand that humanity is not some helpless child to be bullied. We have faced challenges before, both on Earth and among the stars." A ripple of agreement passed through the chamber, but Zaxlor shook his head slowly. "High Counselor, with all due respect, you do not understand the gravity of the situation. The Confederacy possesses technology far beyond your own. Their fleets number in the thousands, their soldiers in the millions. Then why come to us?" a voice called out. Ambassador Chen recognized Admiral Yuki Tanaka, head of Earth's defense forces. "Why not bring this to the Conclave? Surely they have the power to stop this Confederacy." Zaxlor's scales shifted, displaying a pattern that Chen interpreted as discomfort. "The Conclave is divided. Many believe that involving ourselves in this conflict would lead to a war that would tear the galaxy apart. Others," he hesitated, "others believe that allowing the Confederacy to expend its resources attempting to conquer humanity would be strategically advantageous." The chamber erupted in outrage. Counselors shouted accusations of cowardice and betrayal. Chen watched as Zaxlor absorbed the anger, his posture unchanging. "Silence." High Counselor Vega's voice cut through the chaos. Once order was restored, he turned back to Zaxlor. "Ambassador, while we appreciate your personal warning, it seems clear that humanity stands alone in this. Rest assured, we will not go quietly into the night." Zaxlor's eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress. "You don't understand. The Confederacy, They do not adhere to the rules of engagement that have governed interstellar conflict for eons. They will not stop at military targets. They will strike at civilian populations, at your colonies, at Earth itself. He stepped closer to the podium, his voice dropping to a near whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the room. You do not kill humans. You harm one of them, and the rest will hunt you down. It doesn't matter where you go or how well you hide. This is the reputation your species has begun to build, but the Confederacy, they do not believe it. They think it is mere bravado. Ambassador Chen stood, drawing the alien's attention. Ambassador Zaxlor, she said, her voice steady, you speak as if you have personal experience with humanity's tenacity. The alien's scales rippled with a pattern Chen couldn't interpret. During my youth, I served as a cultural attaché to a human colony world. Pirates attacked an outlying settlement. His voice grew soft, tinged with what might have been awe or fear. I watched as every able-bodied colonist, armed with little more than mining tools and makeshift weapons, mounted a rescue operation. They suffered losses, yes, but they did not stop. Not until every captured colonist was recovered, and every pirate was either captured or dead. The chamber had grown deathly quiet, every ear straining to catch Zaxlor's words. I have lived for over 500 of your years, he continued. I have seen empires rise and fall, but I have never seen anything like the fury of humans protecting their own. High Counselor Vega stepped forward, his face a mix of pride and grim determination. Then the Confederacy will learn, Ambassador. They will learn that humanity's reputation is not mere bravado, but a promise. Zaxlor nodded slowly. I believe they will, High Counselor. But at what cost? The Confederacy's first strike will be devastating. They will hit you hard, expecting you to crumble. And when you do not, he left the thought unfinished, the implications hanging heavy in the air. Ambassador Chen's mind raced. If what Zaxlor said was true, they needed to act fast. High Counselor, she said, standing once more, I move that we immediately recall all deep space expeditions and strengthen our colonial defenses. Admiral Tanaka stood as well. I second the motion and further suggest we begin full mobilization of the fleet. If war is coming, we must be prepared. Vega nodded grimly. The motion is carried. Ambassador Zaxlor, we thank you for your warning. Know that whatever comes, humanity will remember those who stood with us in our hour of need. The alien bowed deeply, all four arms crossed over his chest. I only hope, he said softly, that there is enough left of humanity to remember when this is over. As the council erupted into a flurry of activity, Ambassador Chen made her way to Zaxlor's side. Ambassador, she said quietly, is there anything else you can tell us? Anything that might give us an edge? Zaxlor regarded her with all four eyes, his scales shifting to a deep, somber blue. Prepare your people, Ambassador Chen, not just for war, but for a fight unlike any they have faced before. The Confederacy believes this will be a simple conquest. Show them the error of their ways. With a final nod, Zaxlor turned and strode from the chamber, leaving behind a council grappling with the weight of his warning. As the doors closed behind him, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that she had just witnessed the beginning of a new chapter in human history, one that would be written in starfire and sacrifice. The first strike. The gentle hum of New Eden's atmospheric processors provided a soothing backdrop to Commander Erlina Chen's morning routine. She stood at the viewport of her quarters, sipping her coffee and gazing out at the lush, terraformed landscape of humanity's furthest colony. The twin suns of the Epsilon Eridani system were just peeking over the horizon, bathing the world in a warm golden glow. It had been 3 months since the warning from Ambassador Zaxlor, and life on New Eden had changed dramatically. The once peaceful farming colony had been transformed into a fortified outpost. Defense turrets dotted the landscape, their sleek forms a stark contrast to the rolling fields of grain. In orbit, a small fleet of Earth's newest warships stood sentinel, their sensors constantly scanning for any sign of the promised Confederacy attack. Alina's comm unit chirped, pulling her from her reverie. "Commander Chen, you're needed in the command center immediately," came the urgent voice of her XO, Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel. "On my way," Alina replied, setting down her coffee and striding purposefully out of her quarters. As she made her way through the corridors of the colony's central hub, she noted the tension in the air. The colonists she passed wore expressions of grim determination, a far cry from the easygoing farmers they had been just a few months ago. Entering the command center, Alina was greeted by a flurry of activity. Holograms flickered in the air, displaying tactical readouts and long-range sensor data. At the center of it all stood Raj, his dark eyes fixed on the main display. "Report," Alina barked, falling easily into command mode. Raj turned, his face grave. "Long-range sensors have picked up a massive energy surge at the edge of the system. It matches the signature Ambassador Zaxlor warned us about. The Confederacy is here." Alina felt her heart rate quicken, but years of training kept her voice steady. "How long?" "At their current speed, they'll reach New Eden in just under 6 hours." 6 hours. Alina's mind raced through scenarios, strategies, and contingencies. "Sound the alarm. I want every colonist in the shelters within the hour. Get me a direct line to Earth Command, and bring the orbital defense grid online." As her orders were carried out, Alina studied the tactical display. The Confederacy fleet was massive, easily outnumbering their defenses 10-1. But New Eden had one advantage: preparation. "Commander," a young ensign called out, her voice shaking slightly. "I have Admiral Tanaka on secure Channel 1. Alina nodded, squaring her shoulders as the holographic image of Admiral Yuki Tanaka materialized before her. The Admiral's face was a mask of calm, but Alina could see the worry in her eyes. "Commander Chen, I assume you're aware of the situation." "Yes, Admiral. The Confederacy fleet will reach New Eden in less than 6 hours. We're preparing for a full-scale assault." Admiral Tanaka nodded grimly. "The nearest reinforcements are at least 12 hours out. You'll have to hold them off until we can get there. Remember your training, Commander. These bastards think we're an easy target. Show them how wrong they are." "Understood, Admiral. We'll make them regret ever setting foot in this system." As the transmission ended, Alina turned back to her team. "All right, people, this is what we've been preparing for. I want every defense system at full power, every fighter prepped and ready. We may be outnumbered, but we're not outgunned. This is our home, and we're going to defend it with everything we've got." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Alina moved through the colony, overseeing final preparations and offering words of encouragement to the colonists as they made their way to the underground shelters. Many of them, despite their fear, insisted on staying above ground to help with the defense. As the deadline approached, Alina found herself back in the command center, watching as the massive Confederacy fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. "They're launching fighters," Raj reported, his voice tense. "Hundreds of them." Alina nodded, her mind already formulating a plan. "Deploy our stealth drones. Let's get a better look at their formation." The holographic display came alive with new data as the drones fed back information. Alina studied the enemy fleet's formation, noting patterns and potential weaknesses. "Their fighters are fast," she mused, "but they're relying on overwhelming numbers rather than tactical sophistication. We can use that against them." She turned to her weapons officer. "Ensign Kumar, I want you to program our automated defense turrets with an adaptive targeting algorithm. Have them focus on creating a kill box just outside our atmosphere. Force their fighters to cluster together." "Aye, Commander," Kumar responded, his fingers flying over his console. Alina then addressed her fleet commander. "Captain Meek, I want our ships to hold position in high orbit. Don't engage until I give the word. Let them think our defenses are purely ground-based." As the orders were carried out, the first wave of Confederacy fighters entered New Eden's upper atmosphere. The sky lit up with laser fire as the defense turrets came to life, their precision targeting catching the alien pilots off guard. "They're regrouping," Raj reported, a note of hope in his voice. "Looks like they didn't expect such heavy resistance." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Let's keep them guessing. Activate the gravity well generators." Huge structures buried beneath New Eden's surface hummed to life, projecting localized gravitational fields that played havoc with the Confederacy fighters' maneuvering thrusters. Dozens of alien craft spiraled out of control, crashing into each other or plummeting to the ground. But the victory was short-lived. A massive energy spike registered on their sensors as the Confederacy capital ships moved into range. "Incoming," Raj shouted. "Multiple heavy energy weapons charging." Elena's mind raced. They couldn't withstand a direct assault from the capital ships. Not for long. But if they could just hold out until... "Captain Meek," she called out, "execute attack pattern Omega. Bring those ships down." The human fleet burst into action, emerging from their hidden positions in high orbit. They dove towards the Confederacy capital ships, their smaller size and superior maneuverability allowing them to evade the heavy energy weapons. "Pulse cannons charged and ready," Kumar reported. Elena nodded grimly. "Fire." Lances of pure energy erupted from the human ships, striking the Confederacy vessels with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions blossomed across the alien hulls as their shields buckled under the assault. But the Confederacy was far from defeated. Their remaining fighters regrouped, launching a counterattack against the human fleet. Elena watched as the battle raged both in orbit and in the skies above New Eden, her heart pounding with every near miss, every successful hit. Hours passed, and still the battle raged. New Eden's defenses were holding, but barely. The command center shook with each impact, and reports of breaches in the colony's outer perimeter were becoming more frequent. "Commander," Raj called out, his voice trained, "we can't keep this up much longer. Our shields are at 30%, and we've lost contact with 2 of our orbital platforms." Elena gritted her teeth, her mind racing for a solution. They had bloodied the Confederacy's nose, shown them that humanity was far from the easy conquest they had imagined. But it wasn't enough. They needed something more, something unexpected. Suddenly, an idea struck her. It was risky, potentially suicidal, but it might just work. "Raj, get me a direct line to every ship captain and defense station. It's time we show these bastards what happens when you back humans into a corner." As Raj carried out her order, Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. The faces of her fellow defenders appeared on the holographic display, each bearing the marks of battle but still burning with determination. "Listen up," Elena began, her voice carrying the weight of command. "We've held out longer than the Confederacy ever thought possible, but now it's time to end this. I have a plan, but I need every one of you to execute it perfectly." She outlined her strategy quickly, watching as understanding and then fierce approval spread across the faces before her. "This is our home," Elena concluded, her voice rising with passion. "Our future, and we're going to show the Confederacy exactly what happens when you threaten what belongs to humanity. Are you with me?" A chorus of affirmatives rang out, and Elena felt a surge of pride. Whatever happened next, New Eden would not fall easily. As the orders were relayed and the plans set in motion, Elena turned back to the tactical display. The Confederacy ships were regrouping, preparing for what they surely thought would be their final, victorious assault. "All right, you alien bastards," Elena muttered, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Let's see how you handle a real fight." With a nod to Raj, she gave the order that would change the course of the battle, and perhaps the war itself. "Execute Operation Echo. Now." The Awakening. The United Earth Council chamber, once a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, now thrummed with an energy that bordered on chaos. Counselors from every corner of human space argued vehemently, their voices rising and falling like the tide of a storm-tossed sea. At the center of it all stood High Counselor Rodrigo Vega, his face a mask of grim determination as he fought to maintain order. Silence. Vega's voice cut through the din, amplified by the chamber's acoustics. We cannot afford to waste time on petty squabbles. The situation at New Eden demands our immediate and united response. As the room quieted, a holographic display flickered to life at the center of the chamber. It showed the battered but still standing colony of New Eden, surrounded by the debris of what had once been a formidable Confederacy fleet. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stepped forward, her uniform bearing the signs of sleepless nights and constant worry. Counselors, what you're seeing is the aftermath of Operation Echo. Commander Elena Chen and the defenders of New Eden have achieved what many thought impossible. They've not only repelled the Confederacy's initial assault, but have dealt them a significant blow. A murmur of amazement rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Sarah Chen, her face a mixture of pride and concern, spoke up. Admiral, can you elaborate on Operation Echo? How did a single colony manage to defeat a force that vastly outnumbered them? Admiral Tanaka nodded, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Commander Chen utilized a strategy that the Confederacy never saw coming. She turned New Eden itself into a weapon. The holographic display shifted, showing a replay of the battle's final moments. The counselors watched in awe as New Eden's gravity well generators, initially used for defense, suddenly increased their output tenfold. The massive gravitational distortion caught the Confederacy fleet off guard, pulling their ships into a chaotic spiral. As the enemy fleet struggled against the gravitational pull, Tanaka continued. Commander Chen ordered a coordinated strike from both the orbital defense platforms and the ground-based cannons. The Confederacy ships, their formations shattered and their defenses compromised, were sitting ducks. The display showed the devastating results of the attack. Confederacy ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their debris adding to the gravitational maelstrom that trapped their comrades. The remaining Confederacy forces attempted to retreat, Tanaka concluded, but Commander Chen had one final surprise. A small team of engineers working around the clock had repurposed New Eden's atmospheric processors into massive EMP generators. When activated, they disabled the Confederacy's faster-than-light drives, leaving them stranded in the system. As the holographic replay ended, the chamber erupted in applause. High Counselor Vega raised his hands, calling for order once more. While we celebrate this victory, he said, his voice somber, we must not forget the cost. New Eden has suffered significant damage, and the colony's long-term survival is in question. Moreover, this is merely the opening salvo in what promises to be a long and brutal war. The mood in the chamber sobered quickly. Ambassador Chen stood, her eyes blazing with determination. Then we must act now, she declared. The Confederacy believed us to be an easy target, a young species ripe for conquest. New Eden has shown them the error of that assumption, but we cannot afford to be complacent. We must mobilize every resource, every mind, every able body to defend our species and our way of life. High Counselor Vega nodded gravely. Agreed. Admiral Tanaka, what is the status of our fleet? The Admiral's face tightened. We're stretched thin, Counselor. The defense of New Eden has left our other colonies vulnerable. We need more ships, more weapons, and more personnel trained to use them. Then that is where we shall start, Vega declared. He turned to address the entire council. I propose an immediate shift to a war economy. All non-essential industries will be retooled for military production. We'll institute a draft, calling upon every citizen to do their part, whether in uniform or in the factories. The council chamber buzzed with a mixture of approval and concern. One counselor, representing the Jupiter colonies, spoke up. And what of diplomacy? Surely there must be other species in the galaxy who would stand with us against the Confederacy's aggression. Ambassador Chen shook her head. The Galactic Conclave has made their stance clear. They will not intervene directly. However, she added, a glint in her eye, that doesn't mean we can't seek out unofficial alliances. High Counselor Vega nodded. Make it happen, Ambassador. Use whatever channels you have. We need allies, technology, anything that can give us an edge. As the Council continued to debate the finer points of humanity's war strategy, a young woman sat quietly in the back of the chamber, her mind racing with possibilities. Dr. Aisha Kapoor, head of the Center of Technology Research Division, had been listening intently to every word. The battle at New Eden had provided a wealth of data on Confederacy technology, and her team had been working around the clock to analyze it. Finally, she stood, clearing her throat nervously. Counselors, if I may. All eyes turned to her, and Dr. Kapoor felt her heart race. But the importance of her work steeled her resolve. The battle at New Eden has given us unprecedented access to Confederacy technology. My team has been analyzing the debris, and we've made some startling discoveries. She approached the central holographic display, inputting commands that brought up schematics of various Confederacy systems. Their faster-than-light drives, their energy weapons, even their shield technology. They're all based on principles that we've theorized but never successfully implemented. With this data, we could leapfrog decades, maybe even centuries of research and development. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Admiral Tanaka was the first to speak. How long, Doctor? How long before we could see practical applications of this research? Dr. Kapoor took a deep breath. Under normal circumstances, years. But these aren't normal circumstances. Give me the resources, the best minds humanity has to offer, and carte blanche to pursue any avenue of research, no matter how theoretical, and I believe we could have prototyped weapons and defense systems within 6 months. The council erupted into excited chatter. High Counselor Vega raised his hands for silence once more. Dr. Kapoor, you'll have everything you need. I want you to assemble a team immediately. Draw from every research institution, every tech company, every university. Price is no object. As Dr. Kapoor nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities, Ambassador Chen spoke up. We should also consider the psychological aspect of this war. The Confederacy sought to break us with their first strike. Instead, they've united us like never before. We need to harness that unity, that determination. Vega nodded thoughtfully. A public information campaign. Show our people what we're fighting for, what's at stake. But more than that, we need to show the galaxy. The Confederacy thinks of us as primitives, easy prey. Let's show them, and anyone else watching, exactly what humanity is capable of when pushed to the brink. As the Council continued to hash out the details of humanity's response to the Confederacy threat, a sense of purpose filled the chamber. The fear and uncertainty that had gripped them in the wake of Zaxelor's warning had been replaced by a steely determination. Humanity had been attacked, yes, but they had not been broken. Instead, they had been awakened, their potential unleashed by the very forces that sought to subjugate them. The Confederacy had wanted an easy conquest. Instead, they had roused a sleeping giant, a species that would fight with every fiber of its being to defend its right to exist among the stars. As the meeting drew to a close, High Counselor Vega stood once more, his voice ringing out with quiet authority. Let it be known, he declared, that on this day, humanity does not cower. We do not yield. We stand united, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. The Confederacy sought to extinguish our light. Instead, they have only caused it to burn brighter than ever before. A chorus of agreement echoed through the chamber. As the counselors filed out, each heading off to oversee their part of the war effort, there was a palpable sense of change in the air. Humanity had been tested, and they had risen to the challenge. The echo of humanity, first heard in the desperate defense of New Eden, was about to become a rallying cry that would resound across the galaxy. The war had only just begun, but already the tides were turning. In labs and factories, in shipyards and training grounds, in diplomatic chambers and strategy rooms, humanity prepared. They would not go quietly into the night. They would fight, they would persevere, and they would show the Confederacy and the entire galaxy exactly what it meant to awaken the sleeping giant of Earth. The next move was theirs, and the galaxy held its breath in anticipation. The counterattack. The vast shipyards of Mars hummed with activity, a symphony of construction that echoed across the red planet's thin atmosphere. Massive vessels took shape in the skeletal frameworks, their hulls gleaming under the harsh Martian sun. These were not the utilitarian transports or scientific vessels that had once been the mainstay of humanity's space fleet. These were warships, bristling with weapons and shielded by technology that, mere months ago, had existed only in theoretical papers. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood at the viewport of her flagship, the UES Defiant, watching as the final touches were put on the last ship of the fleet. Her weathered face reflected a mixture of pride and grim determination. The fleet before her represented the culmination of humanity's united efforts, a force built to take the fight directly to the Confederacy. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her. Tanaka turned to see her XO, Commander Alexei Volkov, approaching with a datapad in hand. "Final systems checks are complete. The fleet is ready for departure." Tanaka nodded, taking a deep breath. "Very well, Commander. Signal all ships. It's time to move out." As Volkov carried out her orders, Tanaka's mind drifted back to the whirlwind of events that had led to this moment. The desperate defense of New Eden, the feverish months of preparation, the breakthroughs that had propelled human technology forward by leaps and bounds. Dr. Aisha Kapoor and her team had worked miracles, reverse engineering Confederacy tech and combining it with human ingenuity to create weapons and defenses that would have been unimaginable a year ago. The fleet that now assembled in Mars orbit was unlike anything humanity had ever fielded before. At its core were the new Titan-class battleships, massive vessels that combined overwhelming firepower with cutting-edge stealth technology. Supporting them were swarms of Wolf-class frigates, agile ships designed for hit-and-run tactics. And darting between the larger vessels were the newly minted Wraith fighters, their adaptive camouflage making them nearly invisible to sensors. But it wasn't just the hardware that made this fleet formidable. Every ship was crewed by volunteers who had trained relentlessly for this moment. They were the best humanity had to offer, united in their determination to defend their species and their way of life. As the fleet began to move out, forming up for the jump to faster-than-light travel, Tanaka felt a presence at her side. She turned to see the holographic form of Dr. Kapoor flickering into existence. "Admiral," Kapoor said, her voice tight with excitement and nerves, "I wanted to personally assure you that all systems are operating at peak efficiency. The quantum entanglement communicators are online, allowing for instantaneous coordination across the fleet, even at FTL speeds." Tanaka nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Your team has done incredible work, Doctor. Now it's time to see how it holds up in actual combat." As if on cue, the stars outside the viewport blurred and stretched as the fleet made the jump to FTL. They were on their way to the heart of Confederacy space, to a system that intelligence had identified as a key shipyard and supply depot. Hours later, as the fleet dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the target system, tension filled the bridge of the Defiant. Long-range sensors painted a picture of the Confederacy forces, a defensive fleet that outnumbered the human ships nearly 2-1, backed up by formidable orbital defenses around a heavily industrialized planet. "Well," Tanaka muttered, studying the tactical display, "they certainly weren't expecting company." Indeed, the Confederacy ships seemed to be scrambling to form up, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a human fleet deep in their territory. Tanaka allowed herself a grim smile. The element of surprise was theirs, but it wouldn't last long. "All ships, this is Admiral Tanaka." She broadcast across the fleet. "You know why we're here. The Confederacy thought they could break us with their attack on New Eden. Today, we show them how wrong they were. Today, we bring the fight to them. Execute Battle Plan Theta. Good hunting." The human fleet sprang into action with practiced precision. The Wolf-class frigates darted forward, their advanced ECM suites creating a wall of electronic noise that confused Confederacy sensors. Behind this veil, the Titan-class battleships moved into position, their massive gun batteries charging. The Confederacy fleet, still struggling to organize, fired wildly into the electronic fog. A few lucky shots found their mark, but the improved shields of the human ships held firm. "Now," Tanaka ordered, her voice calm but filled with steel. The electronic veil dropped, revealing the Titans in perfect firing position. Their main guns spoke as one, lances of coherent energy so powerful they distorted the space around them, lashing out at the Confederacy ships. Vessels that had once seemed invincible were torn apart, their shields overwhelmed by weaponry they had never anticipated facing. But Tanaka knew better than to expect an easy victory. The Confederacy, for all their arrogance, were not fools. Their remaining ships quickly adapted, forming up into defensive formations and launching swarms of fighters. Phase 2, Tanaka commanded. Release the Wraiths. From the hangars of every human ship poured the Wraith fighters. To the naked eye, they seemed to shimmer and vanish, their adaptive camouflage rendering them nearly invisible. They streaked towards the Confederacy fighters, engaging in a deadly dance that the enemy could barely perceive. As the space battle raged, a secondary force of human ships slipped past the defensive line, heading for the shipyards orbiting the planet. These were specialized vessels, carrying elite teams of boarders trained in zero combat and equipped with powered armor that made them a match for any Confederacy soldier. The battle lasted for hours, a constantly shifting tableau of fire and destruction. Human ingenuity and determination clashed against Confederacy numbers and entrenched defenses. Losses mounted on both sides, the void filling with the debris of shattered ships and the bodies of the fallen. But slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn. The human fleet's superior coordination, enabled by their quantum entanglement communicators, allowed them to react faster, to seize opportunities as they arose. The Wraith fighters decimated the Confederacy's air wings, while the Wolf frigates darted in and out of the enemy formation, causing chaos and drawing fire away from the Titans. On the bridge of the Defiant, Admiral Tanaka watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and sorrow. They were winning, yes, but at a cost. Each blip that vanished from her tactical display represented lives lost, families shattered. "Admiral," Commander Volkov called out, his voice tight with excitement. "The boarding teams report success. They've seized control of the main shipyard and are downloading the Confederacy's database." Tanaka nodded grimly. "Tell them to rig it for destruction. We're not leaving anything for the Confederacy to salvage." As the battle entered its final stages, with the remaining Confederacy ships in full retreat and the shipyards burning, Tanaka allowed herself a moment of reflection. This victory, as decisive as it was only the beginning. The Confederacy would regroup, would strike back with even greater force. But humanity had proven something today. They had shown that they were not merely prey to be hunted, not a young species to be easily conquered. They had taken the fight to the heart of Confederacy space and emerged victorious. As the fleet regrouped, tending to their wounded and repairing what damage they could, Tanaka opened a channel to Earth. The face of High Counselor Vega appeared, his eyes widening as he took in Tanaka's battle-worn appearance. "Admiral," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation, "report." Tanaka straightened, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. "Counselor, the mission was a success. We've dealt the Confederacy a significant blow and acquired vital intelligence. But more than that, we've sent a message. Humanity will not go quietly. We will fight, and we will win." Vega nodded, a fierce pride evident in his eyes. "Well done, Admiral. Bring our people home." As the communication ended, Tanaka turned back to the viewport, watching as her fleet prepared for the journey back to Earth. The stars seemed different somehow, no longer distant and cold, but full of possibility. The echo of humanity, first heard in the desperate defense of New Eden, had now become a thunderous roar that resonated across the galaxy. The Confederacy had awakened a sleeping giant, and now they would face the consequences of their actions. As the fleet jumped to FTL, leaving behind the burning remnants of the Confederacy shipyards, Admiral Tanaka allowed herself a small, grim smile. The war was far from over, but today, humanity had proven that they were not only capable of surviving in this hostile galaxy, they were capable of winning.